So if I wanted to make it yellow, I could put in W3 yellow and Control save, and when I save it, there it is. Now there's not much content in there, but it's if I put a couple other of these, Control copy, and I put that in here, and Control saved it. There we go. Now, one of the things simply we can do, let's look at some of these ways to divide up the space. Now, again, this is where we're going to start talking about dividing up. So what I want to do, what I want to do is, here's that row. I want to end that row, and I want to begin a new row. So this is the end of that row. And I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to put in my line here that's going to say start new row. And this is where we're going to start with our div. So we can do the same exact thing. We're going to have a div class W3 row, and this one has a border around it. It looks like it's a light gray little border with a little bit of a border. So let's just do that. I'm going to use this. So I'm going to do this. Div. So here's my div tag. Okay. And in that, I'm going to say class equals W3 row. Okay. Now, got W3 row, and this has a nice W3 border, so we'll see what that is. Let's see what W3 border. I'll just copy that. Notice that I'm putting that inside the quotes right here inside. So if I did that, save, there it is. You can actually, I do believe, a tiny little indication of a row showed up. But I could be wrong. If I took this out for a second and hit save, yeah, it changes this little line right here. If you watch, I don't know if you can see it, but it changes this. So I'm going to Control paste that back in, and I'm going to hit Control save. Now you watch right here. See that line? So that border just got slightly bigger. So it is recognizing that it's added that. So next I will put in a new div, another new div. So here's my new div. But this div is going to be called not a row, but this is going to be a container. And that container needs to be, so let's say we're going to put 3 containers in here. Now, I've got 3 containers. They could all be equal, a third. So this is going to be container, a class. We can call it a container. So I can call it a container. And, oops, I got to put in W3 container. And then I got to put in W3 and a size of some sort. Let's just do third for now. Okay, and you got to keep track of those divs. So that div, I'm going to mark this one as end of row, so I can see it. And then we've got to put something in our container to view it. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to put in an H2, and I'm going to say container 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'll give it a color here. And I'm going to use my W3 Schools colors because I think it's nice to get used to using those. Let me go down to color classes. Well, let's look at a color theme actually, something that will keep things maybe a little more organized. See what it looks like. So here's some themes. Let's see how we use a theme. Okay, you link it. Okay, so you link your theme name up here. I wasn't going to do that. Let's just pick a color. I'll just do these kind of analogous colors, right? Purple, deep purple, and indigo. So purple, make the first one purple. Copy. I'm in Aptana, so W3's it's purple. If I get Control Save, there's container 1. Now I'm just going to copy. I don't need to copy the row because the row is here, so I'm just going to Control Copy, and I'm going. Notice that it already is taking up a third of the space. And then I'm going to say this is container 2, and it was purple, and then I'm going to say deep purple. I think. Let me just see how they spell it, just to make sure. Deep. Control Save. There's deep purple, and then another one that says indigo. So I'll just take this, copy it, Control Copy, and I'll take this and call it W3 Indigo, and I save it, and indigo. Save that. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, and or I could put the purple in. Maybe it looks a little better. The colors are a little bit too similar. Control Save. There we go. That looks a little bit better. So now I have these containers here. And so what we'll end up seeing is that when they respond, they will line up nicely one below each other. As the container gets to be a specific size like this, I get my containers. Now I could, okay. Now I have 3 containers. They don't have to be equal in size. So let's look at a non-equal. So W3 quarter. Let's look at how we break it into quarters. Is it going to be quarters? Is it going to be half? Is it going to be third? So we have a quarter, 3 quarters. So let's try quarter. So I'm going to say W3 quarter. So if the first one is a quarter, and the last one is a quarter, and the middle one can be half. Let's see what happens. Half, half. Now this is when they stack up. Let me see. Half, quarter, quarter. So mine's not responding quite right. So first I'm going to just look at my code and see if I got it. What I did wrong. Okay, so what I did is so I've got quarter, but I've got W3, W3. So little typos like that mess things up, and then you can spend forever trying to fix it. So here's my containers. Container 1, container 2, container 3. This is a quarter, this is a half, and this is a quarter. So they're taking up, this is taking up half of this space. This is taking up all of this space. There are other ways that we can do this as well. We can use breakpoints that are going to be dependent on the size of the type of screen that you're going to use. So if we go back and look at this, responsive rows, we have a row, but we can also, remember when we talked about using the grid, and when you're using the grid, you can break things up into single columns. This is 12 individual columns. This is 6 columns that are by 2, but everything has to add up to 12. So 12, 8 and 4 is 12, 6 and 6 is 12, 4, 4 and 4 is 12. That's exactly what this allows you to do. An S1 class is a class that will define small spaces. So on a small screen, you can use up this. You'll have 12 small columns or 4 columns. So if I wanted if I had 3 columns, I would need to use 3 4s, or I could use 2 columns and say a 4, an S4, and an S8, for example. And that would remain columns on small screens. If I want that to break into columns, if I want it to go have a breakpoint on larger screens, I could use the medium class, and this is for typically tablets. So if I wanted all my content to look collapsed, like on a phone like this, up until the point where they go on a large screen, then I can add those breakpoints for that. Same for the large classes. So if I want it to remain small columns until I hit these that large screen, then I can do that. So we're going to look at that next, how we utilize this to kind of change up the way things look. Because what you can do is you can actually mix and match. Say on a small screen, I want it to look all stacked. On a medium screen, I want this first column to be a quarter and the rest of it. So you can and the rest of it to be 3/4. But on a large screen, I want the first column to be 3/4 and the last column to be 1/4. So we'll experiment with some of those types of things in the next video.